Amen. Amen. Good morning, church. First of all, I give honor to our leader, our shepherd, our pastor, my father, Pastor Reverend Wylie Howard Sr.
Amen.
Fellow pastors, mothers of the church, deacons, deaconesses, friends. I'd like to, first of all, open up with prayer. So please bow your heads. Father, thank you for just another day to be amongst the living. Thank you for purpose. Thank you for vision. Thank you for just being you. Thank you for forgiveness. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your relevance, Lord. Thank you for your hedge of protection that you continuously place around us. All that we love, all that we come in contact with. Thank you for the air and the trees. Thank you for all that you do each and every day, all that you've done, all that you currently do, and all that you plan to do. I pray for strength right now, Lord. I pray for you to anoint my mind, my body, my tongue. Use me as you will to bless others.
Yes, Lord. Thank you, Jesus.
I love you dearly, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
You may be seated. Church, today, I came about this title and this topic really through various trials, tribulations, and experiences. As you know, I'm a 26-year educator, currently a principal at an alternative school. My school services middle, high, and adult programs. I have middle school students who are at least 2 years behind grade level. High school students that obviously are recovering for particular reasons. Some of them have trauma that they're dealing with, unaddressed trauma, social, emotional issues. You name it, they're dealing with it. But they still need education too. So my school services them in a different way, in a different format, with a different philosophy in mind. Also service all of the jails in Broward County. I have teachers in Broward downtown jail, and the 3 jails here in Pompano, Conti Ryan, and North Broward. I see a lot. I'm going to tell you, I have to remain prayed up in my capacity constantly, and I thank you for all of your prayers, because I see a lot of pain. I see a lot of pain. And I'm not talking about just with the students and the youth, I'm talking about with the teachers, all the people who support the staff of the school, the parents that come in. You deal with a lot of pain. And I start to think, we have to put this in perspective, because if we call ourselves believers, if we call ourselves having faith, then we need to put all of that in perspective. Because it must have purpose if it's in existence. Because we know who is in control, correct? So the title that I came up with is The Significance of Suffering. The significance of suffering. There's purpose to it. Now the scripture is definitely read, comes from Paul, because Paul, to my understanding, has written probably half the New Testament. He's a visionary. He's a gifted man of the tongue. He's a phenomenal leader. 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 1 through 10. Now, I always recommend reading the entire chapter. That's what I try to do, regardless if a particular speaker is speaking from just a portion of that chapter. Always read the entire chapter. Because Paul's vision of his storm, he talks about his storm. Now, I'm just going to read, really for the sake of time, verses 6 through 10. And I'm going to elaborate on that, but I definitely recommend you read the entire chapter. Begin with verse 6, if you mind standing while the word is read. And I'm reading from the new invitational NIV version. So if our words differ, that's because I'm reading from a different version. Beginning with verse 6. Even if I should choose to boast, I would not be a fool because I would be speaking the truth. But I refrain so no one would think more of me than is warranted by what I do or say, or because of these surpassingly great revelations. Therefore, in order to keep me from being conceited, I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me, but he said to me, my grace is sufficient. For my power is made perfect in your weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weakness, so that Christ's power may rest in me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight. I repeat, he said, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. You may be seated. I want to open up with an inspirational story. And it was kind of, relates to the topic today. And it's a farm and an old mule. And one day the old mule accidentally fell into a deep well. Because the well was so deep, the farmer thought there was no way to save the old mule. And he decided to abandon it. But he didn't have the heart. He didn't have the heart to. So seeing the old mule struggling inside the well, he decided to use dirt to bury the mule inside the well. When the farmer began to shovel the dirt into the well, one scoop at a time, the old mule shook off the dirt on its back and then began to climb up on it. The old mule kept shaking off the dirt. And in the end, because of the old mule's persistence, the dirt that had been intended to bury him inside the well became a substance to free himself. See, the sand in this story represents tribulations. We experience it in our lives. We constantly do it. We're currently doing it now. They're constant tribulations. Because these tribulations keep us honest. God is way ahead of us. I'm going to continue to relate back to that. All right, each time I travel, move forward. So, but I want to capitalize on the 5 versions of suffering that Paul mentioned in verse 10. He mentioned weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecutions, and also calamities. We use calamities as well. See, weaknesses is a form of suffering. This is good news because it gives us meaning to our everyday challenges. We're all weak. We all complement each other. And we encounter this result in our weaknesses because this also can be considered physical limitations or just plain current human nature. Our weaknesses keeps us honest and relevant towards God, who works through them to validate us. All of us are assembled here today, and we don't possess the same strengths and weaknesses. Yet we all have them. We all have our different strengths, and we have our different weaknesses. That is by God's design. It keeps us relevant, and it keeps us dependent upon each other. It keeps us honest, because we can relate when we experience our own weaknesses. We can talk about insults. Insults are also a form of suffering. We might have naturally thought of this because persecution involves insults. People are intending to persecute us. Am I correct?
Yes.
Paul seems to have in mind the insults are generally used to our advantage. But it depends on our perspective of those insults. Just think about it. Why would a person insult you? Give me a few reasons, church. Why would a person insult you? Envy.
Lack of understanding.
They don't have respect for you.
They don't understand.
Jealousy. Just to slander you.
They don't understand you.
So they're haters, right? That's what we call it these days, right? Insecurities. So when others insult you, it should only validate who they are as individuals and how you should categorize them within your lives moving forward. In most cases, they're trying to make you feel as low as they feel. Don't give them that much power over your happiness. That's what we have to be careful about, is how much power we give those type of individuals.
That's right.
We give them too much credit. Why carry it on day by day, being upset and mad and all up in a knot over a person that you've just given all this power to? If you actually think about it. So just think about that. Insults are the last resort for insecure people. When in crumbling position, they want to appeal confident because they know they've lost. So you have to remain in perspective. Insults are arguments employed by those who are usually wrong. They know that they're wrong, and your point has made a reflection that, hey, they have a point. But instead of being big enough of a person to say, you know what, you got a point, they want to insult you. They want to push a button. But I'm going to tell you how to handle people with insults. A soft, confident response is usually the best compliment. Want an example? Want an example? Oh, really? Is that right? Oh, okay. Then move on. Hardships is another one. As you know, as Paul mentioned these, they escalate. Weakness, insult. Now we're talking about hardships. Hardships seem to be a general term covering the difficulties of our lives. Another way of suffering is to think of hardships. So it's another category that's kind of broadens our understanding of suffering. Hardships gives us a broad category of many challenges that life presents to us. Hardships we cannot go without. I don't care how rich you are, how popular you are, how fortunate or blessed you think you are, you will continuously experience hardships. It cannot go away. There is no success without hardship. So when you sit there and you're in awe of a person's success, know that they have been through something. Or they are going through something. And you have to make sure that you are willing to go through what they're going through. Because there are others that just don't want to sacrifice that much. They want the success, but they don't want the work that comes with it. So we have to keep ourselves in perspective there. Hardships prepare ordinary people for extraordinary destinies. All right, God is going to place it on you, but we're going to get into the particulars of how we should respond to those hardships. Because what happens, and as I told you, what I see in my capacity, I see so many people in pain, and it's because of their perspective of what they're going through. If you have that faith in God, if you have that understanding of how God operates and how big our God is, you won't give it that much power over you. You will understand that it is necessary to go through those particular circumstances and those hardships. They are not going to go away. As you surpass one, guess what's coming? Another. It keeps us honest. It keeps us relative because we don't know what his plan for us is. That's how we can relate. Some of the experiences that we go through may be for our children. They may be for someone that we're going to encounter along the way. They may be for our parents. They may be for a stranger in the streets. You never know why we experience those things. Why we have a certain level of sympathy for someone that we see and we want to reach out and help them. So we can't forget that it's all purposed. God is way ahead of us. persecution for our faith, whether it's typical or another form. And of course, suffering is a relevant form of persecution. Now, when I researched persecution, it was all religion. All they related to was religion, persecution, because of how our Lord and Savior was persecuted. And how he was able to, what? Withstand all that persecution and abuse and ridicule. And of course, he rose again. Am I correct? So, when you talk about persecutions, it's an organized effort. Persecution is a compliment paid by a threatening lie. People are trying to bury you, but they forget, especially when you're on Team God, you're burying the seed. That's how you have to see it. They forget that you are seed. So they can bury it all they want, but all you would do is grow. Thank you. Persecution has never hurt the church. I'm going to repeat this. Persecution has never hurt the church. Prosperity has. Persecution has never hurt the church. Prosperity has. When we get into prosperity, we get it twisted. And we're all human. I'm not saying that if we ever hit and we become very rich and popular, we can say all we want. I wouldn't do that. But truth of the fact is, we are human.
That's right.
So the closer we are to God and the more we understand God and we understand our purpose, the more we can handle prosperity. And that's one thing that people get to being very selfish when prosperity comes about. It's about them. And that's why a lot of people lose prosperity. People don't realize this, but there's a lot of people that lose their riches more than those who are able to sustain it. Not many are able to sustain it. So you have to understand that all of this has relevance. See, what we see in death and what we see in pain and what we see in suffering, God does not see it that way. He is way ahead of us. He knows what's waiting for us. We're just going through these trials and these tribulations, and he wants to see how we're going to use all of our experiences, all of our suffering to be a blessing to others. That's what it's all about. That's the relevance. Now, calamities is the most extreme. We're talking disease, we're talking famine, we're talking cancer, we're talking shipwrecks, we're talking plane crashes. Those are the calamities of this world, the tragic events, the tornadoes. These things, we see them as tragic events, but how would God see them? There are benefits, actually. Every time we have a storm, there's benefits to the earth. Well, we see is the inconveniences of it. Oh, the lights out, this, But actually, God is using it to shift things back into our advantage. Or he's looking to humble us. Because we got a little too extra. Or sometimes he just wants to bring us to a halt. Think about it. Every time there's a storm, everybody's what? We're hovering down, we're still, we're reflecting, okay, praying. Yeah, bring a lot until I need one. So those calamities, again, all purposed. So the way we look at them, we have to be in the proper perspective. We have to understand as people of God, it is a gift to exist. It's a gift. But it's a price to pay. It's a price to pay. When you get up, we have to be lions. Kids, we have to be lions. When the lion gets up, he knows that he has to outrun the slowest gazelle in order for him and his family to eat. Now, the gazelle gets up, he's looking at his friends. He's like, I'm outrunning one of y'all. Because the slowest one going to get caught up. I'd rather be the lion. When you wake And sometimes it's nothing to do with you. God is looking 2-3 moves ahead of you. It's not even about you. It's about your children. It's about your grandchildren. It's about your legacy and what that legacy is, what it's going to bless. So you have to look at it from that standpoint. Suffering creates a connection with others we encounter in life. It's a connection. We can relate. And we can even advise those individuals. Hey, I've been there. Just hang in there. You'll get through it. Because if you think about it, we have various ages in this room today. Various ages. And those individuals who are older are obviously wiser. They're considered wiser because they've been through more. So we have to look at it from the standpoint of just that seasoning causes us to suffer. It comes from suffering, and it elevates us as individuals. There are 2 ways to deal with suffering. Whether you face trials throughout life, or you suffer with hope, or you suffer with despair. You choose. You can choose hope, or you can choose despair. But regardless of what you choose, you're going to go through it. But also, if you think about the way God works, if you choose hope, more likely you'll get through it faster. Despair is a long road. It's a painful road. But we choose. That's what I think we get misunderstood also in the churches. We feel God is placing things in our control as well. We control it. Got another story to share. This is a good one. I like this one. All right. There was a man that went to a barber shop to have his hair cut and his beard trimmed. As the barber began to work, they began to have a good conversation. They talked about many things and various subjects. When they eventually touched on the subject of God, the barber said, "I don't believe that God exists." The customer said, "Why do you say that?" "Well, you just have to go out in the streets and you realize that God doesn't exist. Tell me, if God exists, why would it be sick people? Why would it be abandoned children? If he existed, why would there be suffering and pain? I can't imagine a loving God who allowed all of those things." The customer thought for a moment, but didn't respond because he didn't want to get into an argument. The barber finished his job and the customer left the shop. Just as he left the barber shop, he saw a man on the street with long, stringy, dirty hair and an untrimmed beard. He looked dirty and unkempt. The customer turned back and entered the barber shop again and said to the barber, "You know what? Barbers don't exist." The barber said, "How can you say that? I'm here. I am the barber, and I just worked on you." All right. Customer said, "No. Barber doesn't exist because if he did, there would be no people with dirty, long, untrimmed beards and hair like this man that I found outside." "Ah, but the barber do exist. That's what happened when people don't come to me."
Jesus.
The gentleman said, "Exactly. That's the point. God too does exist. That's what happens when people don't go to him." That's why there's so much pain and suffering in the world.
Yes, Lord.
It doesn't exempt suffering,
Jesus.
but remember what he said earlier. His grace is what? Sufficient. So we can't forget that. So closing out, we always have to be a blessing to others. That's what this is all about. Being a blessing to others each and every day. Whenever when you want to isolate yourself from the world, that's when your time is close to ending. Because you're showing God that you're out of the service business.
Jesus.
And he is in the service business. So it never comes just about you. You don't want to be bothered. Don't bring me that nonsense. Don't bring me. Your wisdom, your relevance, your perspective is needed. Very important.
Amen.
Who we become throughout suffering is infinite. Some of the most generous people have no money. Some of the wisest people have no education. Some of the kindest people have been hurt the most.
Jesus.
I'm going to repeat those because they're just that relevant.
Amen.
Some of the most generous people have no money. Some of the wisest people have no education. Some of the kindest people have been hurt the most.